right, from the conversation around Oworonshoki demolition, and this is our assurance to everybody who is affected in Oworonshoki, we'll get the government merely after the show, at least reach out to them to see when they can come on the program so that at least they can have their say and see what can be done to these people who have been crying out for a very long time since the demolition exercise started. But we'll move from here to where?
Let's head over to River State now and talk the curious case of River State's politics. It's always been one that the faint-hearted will most likely not survive in it. So over the weekend, on Friday in particular, when the defection was announced yet again of some lawmakers, a lot of Nigerians who had thought the chapter of a political drama in Rivers had ended, thought, come on, not again. So we'll have joining us right now one of the factional publicity secretaries of the APC in River State, Mr. Chibike Ikenga. And as I said earlier on, it's been quite a dramatic 3 years in River State. So from the courts to factionalizations of parties to protests to sole administrator, and now we have a governor back in office. So Mr. Chibike Ikenga joins us right now virtually to speak about this defection. Mr. Ikenga, good morning. Welcome to the program. Right, please, you might need to unmute so we can get your responses through clear and sharp. But I'm just going to shoot the first salvo right and ask you, have you received the members now who have defected to the APC?
Well, thank you, Kade. Firstly, I'd like to correct an impression. I'm not a factional publicity secretary of the APC. Anybody could claim to be anything, but I'm the substantive publicity secretary of the APC as we speak in River State.
Who is your chairman? Who is the chairman of the APC in River State? Pardon me, let's just clear that out once and for all. Who's the chairman of the APC?
Chief Tony Okocha.
Right. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I mentioned earlier that we have received them. I was personally at the plenary with the state chairman of the party, Chief Tony Okocha, to receiving the 17 members, including Mr. Speaker, that joined our party. We would have been happier if all of them had joined, but we're still mounting pressures to get them across to join in our parties, even those at the National Assembly, and then other high-profile public office holders in River State to joining the APC renewed up agenda for the greater good of Nigerians.
Just to be clear, this played out exactly 2 years ago, where members announced their defection, wrote letters, they sang the song, they were wielding APC flags. So really, a lot of people don't see this as anything new. For them, they had defected since 2 years ago. So what is different this time around?
Okay, clearly, I'm sure that if we dwell on that, we may be sitting on appeal in a decision that had already been reached by the Supreme Court on the issue of defection of River State House Assembly members. So that being said, the one you made reference to, which have been nullified, APC as a party, the leadership were not invited, were not represented. This particular one, the state chairman of the party, Chief Tony Okocha, and myself represented the National State Executive Committee of the party to watching their defection and receiving them accordingly. So this is done with due processes, and then we have properly received them into our party.
Mr. Ikenga, I don't know what you mean by properly receive them. There's no such thing as properly receive. Properly receive will mean that... Mr. Ikenga, can you hear me, sir?
Loud and clear, please.
Well, I don't know what you mean by properly received. So let me inquire.
I can explain to you.
No, hold on. I'm in copy of every judgment of this matter is a public document. We know that Section 109, subsection 1I or J is not self-executing. It has to be that pronouncement as to what defection is. There was even a controversy around adjudicating over what was not before the court, but that's another kettle of fish. But picking from that 10-page document, I can remember clearly the words of Justice Iheme when she said, defection means the party the person is headed to has document to prove that they are members the party they left shows that they have officially resigned. So let's put fact, because this is not the first time we're seeing them defect in this sense. So do you have, are they now registered members of your political party? Let's start with some housekeeping.
Yes, they are. And they did that after they had officially resigned from their own party, the PDP. And when we were consulted, we asked them to go through the due processes of going to their ward as well to register with the APC. That they have done.
So you are saying for a fact that 17 members, including Amewule, the Honorable Speaker, has the membership card of the APC with him?
They are registered members of the APC. What we have are slips, and that's what they have.
Okay. So it's an interesting development as far as Rivers politics is concerned. So let's begin to look at what the political future. Why do you think the other 10 stayed back? Because the entirety left the party, the PDP, and said they are defecting. Of course, all of that ended in Supreme Court and where we were. What do you think happened that the other 10 are holding back? If you can maybe give us an idea, if you have any.
Okay, Jeffrey, I think that we have continuously mounted pressures on them on the need to join the Renewed Hope agenda. And the 17 had a keys to it, and they have joined. And the other time, we're still pushing. They're still our friends. They're from our state, and we know them. And we're working on it. I'm sure that, God willing, with time, they will all do the needful if they get convinced.
So as you speak now, because one of the things I'm looking at, who is now the leader? Because, you know, there's the argument, I know you have said you're not the factional leader, and, you know, when that question was raised by my colleague, perhaps is a Emeka element. I don't know whether there was an extension, because I know there was a court of appeal judgment, but I don't want to go into an internal political issue. I want to stay with the issue of the defection for a moment. And where I'm going to with all of this, to the fact that, can you tell us who is leading your party at the state level, be able to champion the cause of your political party? Because that's an important conversation we should have in the midst of all of this defection.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Once again, I'd like you to also make reference to a decision reached by the Supreme Court, wherein the Supreme Court did say that courts are barred from meddling into the internal affairs of political parties. So the issue of mention of Emeka and his sacked team cannot be sustained, as the National Working Committee as well as National Executive Committee had thrown them away and conducted a Congress that ushered us in. That is what it is as of today.
Well, that did not answer my question. Before my colleague, who is the leader of your party in Rivers State? It's just a straight question,
Party
Mr.
leadership constitutionally is headed by the state chairman of the party and members of the executive. And then we also have the zonal chairman, South-South, of our party, Chief Victor Gado, as national vice chairman, South-South. We also have Chief Tony Okota as chairman of the party in the state and other members of the executive.
So it's a very... I must say, for the average Rivers person, it must be quite confusing, you know, back and forth, because Mr. Emeka is also quoting a court judgment by Justice Aprioku. And in one breath, he said court should not delve into matters of a party. But in the same breath, he also referenced the court's judgment that spoke about the defection. So, you know, it's almost like you pick the side, or you pick the judgment that really favors you. So in the light of Mr. Emeka's continuous claim to the chairmanship position of a party in the state, with a court judgment to back it up, which is why I describe you as a factional spokesperson of the APC, because there is no clear-cut leadership. Both of the groups are still laying claim to it. I wonder for you if you think that the Rivers people are comfortable with the political situation in the state right now?
Okay, thank you. I did not make references to two court judgments. I said the final court in the land, the Supreme Court, did say that courts are barred from meddling into internal affairs of the party, and therefore I remain the substantive publicity secretary under the chairmanship of Tony Okocha and others. So the issue of Emeka and his botched ESCO are neither here nor there. the National Working Committee of the party, through the directives of the National Executive Committee, had midwifed a Congress in Rivers State that brought us in. So we speak for the party and we have received the people. So be that as it may, Rivers people are happy with us. They are happy with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's progresses which he had made, unifying the exchange rate. The president had also tried his best to increase revenues to subnational governments through the withdrawal of the subsidy regime, just to mention a few other things he had done. So we are happy that APC is getting ready to continue to take over the state as the elections draw nigh.
You know, you're not a lawmaker, so my questions are limited to some of the things I'll ask you. But I would like you to give an assessment of what you think about the return of Siminalayi Fubara. You are the opposition, so you should have maybe position on the leadership of the state as far as governance is concerned. I was smiling and almost chuckling the last time when you were making reference to court judgment, because when we talk to you politicians, when the court judgment favors you, it's a court judgment. When it doesn't favor you, the Supreme Court has ruled that courts should not interfere in political parties' affairs. So we are used to those conversations. But let's go back to assessment of the Siminalayi Fubara leadership. Do you also suspect that he may be heading towards your direction? By that I mean coming to your party.
Okay, yeah, Jeffrey, once again, you cannot set aside the decision of the Supreme Court, the Superior Court, and begin to equate it with inferior court decisions. So the decision of the Supreme Court stands and is sustained. Finally, the governor is a very strong man in the state by virtue of his position. Is entitled to his opinion, and then he has a lot more information, much more than I do have. If the governor is convinced that he needs to move from his party to the APC, who am I to question him? And if the governor is also convinced that he remains where he is, it's his choice. He's got the rights to associate when he does want to associate and with which organization he does want to associate with, particularly in this case, any political party.
So let's begin to wind down. Let's begin to look at what is expected now that your party is in the majority. At least this time you say it's defection for real. By your own admission, you said they had sleep now because your party has asked them to register at the local level. What is expected of the opposition right now that are in the majority as far as the Rivers State House of Assembly is concerned? Because a lot of the time it's seen that the legislative arm of government at the subnational level is an appendage of the governors. So what kind of robust engagement should we be expecting now that they're in the opposition for real, by your own admission?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I think that it's a good thing that we need to go into proper checks and balances. And then the fact that they are defected an opposition party to the governor will now do better than he's doing currently, knowing very well that there is a watchdog. So for us as Rivers people, we do need cooperation at all the levels of governance and government to be able to push development through for our people who yearn for it earnestly. So I think that we're all Rivers people. Yeah, the executive is there, the legislature, and then the judiciary. They should all do their constitutional roles assigned to them by our ground norm, which is the constitution. So once they do that, I think that everybody will be good, and the Rivers State will develop for the better.
Mr. Kenga, there's a lot more to talk about, but for want of time, we'll begin to wind down the conversation. But we'll be looking in the direction of Rivers State as far as the Rivers politics is concerned, because Rivers is always an interesting arena when it comes to politics, and it's quite confusing. Sometimes it's even difficult to introduce you. I mean, you that are the leaders of the party, because when you introduce someone, say, oh, no, I'm not the factional. The other one is a factional. The other one is discarded. But we hope we can get around the issues like this in the nearest future. Mr. Chibike Ikenga, Publicity Secretary of the APC, says it's not a factional. So let me remove that for now. Publicity Secretary of the APC in Rivers State. And we hope we can hear from the other end as far as this defection is concerned. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll be switching gears to the aviation sector. The hike or the surge, if you will, in the price of tickets is just breaking the banks, literally, to fly. Well, some people have said, you better break the banks within the 1,000, or you have to break the banks for the kidnappers. That is the dilemma Nigerians are now facing. So we'll have some questions for the people who are in the know. Join us again.